Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Suspicious.
And I am Mrs. Rogers.
And tonight we're going to be reviewing Avengers Infinity War. It's been the box office king for the past 2 weeks, has been breaking box office record after box office record.
Yes, this movie has been the culmination project of 10 years for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we are so excited to review this movie because we are huge Marvel fans. Now we have one big question to ask. Is this movie as amazing as all of the trailers and all of the hype is making it out to be?
So, we're going to give you our initial thoughts right after we see the film, and then we're going to sit back and analyze how we feel about it, and give you a longer and more comprehensive review a little bit later on. Now, we'll let you know that there's so much movie for us to cover that you usually have a shorter video, but this one's going to be a little bit longer just to encompass all of that story.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about, and so when we're done reviewing the film, what we're going to do is actually discuss some potential theories as to what could come in the next movie. So we're going to give you our own theories, some theories that we've heard from other people, and that sort of thing.
So, it goes without saying, from this point forward, this is a major spoiler alert. We're letting you know that this entire review is going to be very spoiler heavy.
Spoiler heavy.
We will give you a timestamp right about now that will tell you what our final score is for this film, just in case you're interested in that, and whether or not you want to invest your time in this movie. But from here on out, if you're watching, you're probably going to spoil it for yourself.
The movie will be ruined for you if you haven't seen it.
So if you're willing to go along with the spoilers, we hope that you join us for this review, and we hope you enjoy. Okay, so we just finished watching Infinity War, and we're literally sitting in the parking lot talking to you guys about this, so...
First of all, music was on point.
It's the high-quality content you're looking for, the music. That's the jugular vein right there.
I did like the movie. Actually, much more than I thought I was going to. I went into it thinking I was not going to like it. So maybe that helped me like it more. Sometimes people say that, you know.
Yeah.
Then they walk in with high expectations and then they're not met all the way. I went in with very low expectations. So I did like the film. There is a lot to process.
Yeah.
Kind of had a whole list of potentials and I was still floored.
Marvel is the type of company, they would spread a disinformation campaign. They would be the type of person they'd be the type of company that would actually spread rumors about something so that people are talking in one way or another, and you don't know what's actually going to happen. I will say that because there is so much to process, a lot of it does not feel very real yet.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the things that have happened and the things that have occurred don't feel like they've actually had any sort of weight in the Avengers universe at this point.
Every single Avengers movie they are all at death's door. They are at the brink of dying. You know what I'm saying? Where the universe is about to end once again, or New York City for the 9 billionth time is going to be destroyed. And they always get through it, and they always defeat whatever it is. So and it's always last minute too, which is part of the fun. I'm not dissing that storyline. It is part of the fun, but this is like...
I will say they did a very good job of deftly navigating this very complicated story. Thanos has been a constant in the Marvel movies for a long time now, but in the background. Like, he hasn't been like a prominent character, and so the fact that in this movie they kind of had to bring everyone up to speed about who he really was and why his motivations were there, they did a very good job of kind of figuring how to bring everyone together, how their stories intertwine, and then realize that Thanos is the big threat for all of them. And the action scenes were awesome in this.
Holy cow.
They were so good. Like if you like comic booky action, you want that like, yeah, I want to see someone get their ass kicked. Like, I just want to see boom, like just fighting and like really
intense.
Cool. Yeah, it was just really over the top, really, really entertaining.
It felt very gritty, much more desperate. Yeah. And I liked that a lot.
Yeah, it felt very much like in a fight, what you would actually do. Like, you would have to desperately do something.
Yeah.
Like, if you're throwing everything that you can at someone and it's not working, then you need to do something else, even if it's something that seems pathetic. There are times where, like, you would look on screen and you'd see a character and you'd think to yourself, wow, that is a pathetic response to what's happening to them. But at the same time, you're like, what else is there to do? What can you do?
There were a few tremendously, not many, but just a couple tremendously frustrating points. There really was nothing about this movie that I did not like, which I am really... I mean, Marvel has never really produced anything that I don't like. So
have you ever seen Ghost Rider? I love Nicolas Cage because he's just like this terribly...
He's too much.
He's like this good, terrible actor. Like, I'm in something and I'm just like, this is going to be so hokey.
I'm gonna steal decoration.
There were a ton of kids. Tons of kids in our theater. Tons of them. And so, you know, they have to find this delicate balance between what is a manageable length of film for kids to watch, but also does justice to the story, as opposed to my brother, who thinks that every movie should be 3.5 hour long director's cuts, and that's still not long enough. Sorry, Glenn.
Not your story, Glenn.
It is not your story, okay? I'm still processing a lot. There's just still so much to process, so much story that I have to think about.
Every character was still their own. Nobody got lost in the story.
They all felt very...
Even the little alien girl from, I don't know what her name is.
Mantis.
Thank you. She, like...
The little alien girl.
She was cute, and she was good. You put a tall, handsome, good man in front of me, and I'm gonna say, he's a good man and good looking. Future Mrs. Rogers.
I will say that if you've not seen any of the other Avengers films or any of the other superhero films, you probably will be a little bit lost. And some of the heavier scenes will not weigh as much to you if you don't know their backing.
For some reason, I felt so much more connected to all of the characters in this movie as opposed to the other ones. Maybe that's because I personally sensed that desperation, and I wanted them all to come out okay.
It is hard to give that final conclusion just because it's sort of like reading a book halfway through and then determining whether or not you thought it was good. My heart rate was like, phew.
Yeah, he said that at one point.
My heart rate was, because I'm just like, oh my god, what's going to happen? I'm very, very nervous. This is very intense. This is very intense. Overall, it was a roller coaster ride of a movie. Yeah. It was very entertaining.
Yes.
I don't doubt that you will be very entertained if you see this in theaters. I would recommend going in theaters. Although, interestingly enough, people were trying to see this, like they were trying to follow a storyline so much that normally in Marvel movies you hear reactions a lot more. Like you hear like gasps, or you like people are like laughing. You heard like some laughing and stuff like that, but mostly people are just like, ha ha ha, okay.
Yeah.
So go see Infinity War. Oh god, go see Infinity War. We're going to give a more comprehensive review later on in this video. We will tell you right now, and I will give a timestamp. We are going to do spoilers, and this is going to be an extended review. I know we normally stick to 5 minutes and try to keep it compressed, but in this instance, it's so much movie and so much stuff happening. 10 years of buildup. We just do not have enough time in 5 minutes, so it's going to be an extended review about everything that we thought about Infinity War. So get your popcorn ready, and maybe you'll enjoy what we talk about. Maybe you'll agree with it, and maybe you'll disagree. But hopefully you stay tuned for the whole thing, and we will see you all very soon.
Bye.
Woo. All right, now that we've had some time to sit back and think about what we really felt about Infinity War, we are now going to give our comprehensive breakdown. As always, we have the 5 different categories that we're going to break down, but we're also going to talk about our theories about where this movie lets the story stop and where it's going to progress after we have scored everything. It's really spoiler heavy, all right? So if you don't want spoilers, jump to this time. I'll have a time somewhere here, and just jump to that time, and it should skip all the spoilers. You'll get our overall score. Category we always have is originality. We're going with originality. I think we both scored the same.
Sound the same? 1,
2, 3. Oh,
yes.
4. Yep.
Admittedly, you influenced my rating on this because it's not truly original in that we have seen superhero movies before, and we have even seen all of these superheroes in a movie before. The Thanos storyline, all of that, it was very new to me. I was hooked, completely hooked.
For the same reason, I'm actually rating it a 4. Not an original tale. It It is based off of a comic book storyline from a while ago. However, the telling of it is really interesting and original. The whole story premise in the first place is really interesting and original.
Yes.
It made sense in a cinematic sense, but it also really stayed true in a lot of senses to the Infinity War storyline. So that's why it gets a 4 out of 5. It's just because it's not an original, like it's not a completely original storyline.
Right.
It's just...
We still loved it.
Yeah, it was great.
It was great.
No, it's
this
really, really
isn't
good.
a diss, Marvel. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't cry. I'm sure that the three of you that might have ever see this review.
Presentation.
3, 2, 1. Oh,
Yes!
5 out of 5. All right, good.
I have like extensive notes for this one. I have bullet points. Like extensive notes. It was so good. Okay. First of all, and this is a big thing for me, I thought it was incredibly colorful. I thought that the planets looked fabulous. The battles in New York City and Wakanda. I want to say beautiful, and that's what I always say is beautiful, but I'm going to say it again.
I mean...
It was beautiful. I love the cinematography. We went from great big shots to awesome close-ups. I thought that there was a range of cinematography, which I really, really liked. I really liked the musical themes in it too. When things were really, really bad, it was almost like this lullaby, tender theme, which I thought was, but it killed me. It killed my heart. There was nothing presentation-wise that I probably would have changed. If I had to critique one thing, I did feel like Thanos looked CGI.
How dare this giant purple alien from another part of the universe.
I know. I know.
Looks like he's CGI. How dare he?
You're such a jerk. All done.
Overall, this was just really spectacular. It just never stopped. It never felt like it stopped for a minute. I never felt like anything wasn't essential. This movie compels you to watch it and find out what happens in the storyline. It does a really good job of taking people that don't really know the Infinity War storyline and presenting it in a way that's palpable and easy to digest. And you know, it's a 2.5-hour movie, but they take so many characters and so many things that happen to these characters in such a short amount of time. I mean, 2.5 hours is long, but in the grand scheme of Infinity War, it feels like, how are you going to cram this whole storyline into this short amount of time? And they do a really amicable job of that. It's a good payoff for the 10 years that you've been waiting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Our next category, which leads excellently from the presentations section, is story.
Story.
So,
2, 3, go.
Boom.
Yes.
All right, 5 and a 5.
Okay.
It is taking a storyline that was really, really well known, really well renowned, bringing it to the people that read it. There are people that experienced the Infinity War saga week per week. When you're a kid, you see these comics and you're like, I want to see that. I'm imagining it, but I would love to see it someday.
Right.
And now they get the opportunity to see this huge comic book storyline come to life.
Right.
Not only that, but they took the culmination of, as I said, the culmination of 10 years of Marvel films from before and gave it a great apex. So it brought together the people that have only known the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the people that have known the Marvel comic book universe, as well as maybe knowing the Cinematic Universe, and brought them together in a really excellent way. They do a great job of making that story entertaining for comic book fans and movie-going fans alike, and I'm very proud of the product that they put forth. In the trailers, they throw you off super badly. They lie to you. They distinctly lie to you.
Yeah.
From the trailer to the movie, there are so many lies. If you look back at the trailers and you're like, oh my god, that wasn't like that, or that didn't happen. And they did a great job of trying to preserve the story so it felt new to the people that have never known the Infinity War saga, and the people that are like, you know, over-analyzing comic book nerds, and they're like, I want to know every detail that's going to be in this, and they weren't sure what they were going to include. They gave enough little teasers in all of the trailers to make it seem interesting and hook you, and you want to see what they include. And I think that they just knocked it out of the park by taking all of those elements, the lies and the little truths that they included, and bundling it all together. Good movie. It is a great movie. Don't show your scores, you jerk.
Come on, son! You want to fight?
Yeah.
That wasn't what I meant, but that's how I felt.
So why did you rate it a 5?
So I rated it a 5 for these reasons. Oh no! First of all, I went into this one really wondering how they were going to break up the time between all of the characters. And I thought that they did a tremendous job giving them all equal screen time. I was super impressed with that. I thought that they all had their place and you understood what their place was in the storyline. And that was very important to me because I didn't go into this as a comic book fan, as a comic book reader. So I was really, I was very pleased that I was able to follow the storyline all the way through, and I saw where everybody's place was. I mean, Marvel movies are incredibly attractive for so many reasons. They're funny, they're action-packed. I even think that the morals that they teach are good and important, and they're good discussion points. I was cranky.
Yeah, yes.
I was cranky when it
was.
was over.
Ooh.
I was.
Like that, everything changes, doesn't it?
And some people had to leave the storyline before the snap. Gamora struggled at that part. Struggled.
Yeah, it's
Struggled. I struggled.
I
Was not happy.
I will say my personal feeling on it is my boy Tony.
In that part.
I'm sorry. The moment that happened, he's not a superhero in the context of like I have superpowers. He's just like a really smart guy with a lot of money. He used his mind to develop these what could be equaled as superpowers. They had the score soaring when they had this whole face-off with Thanos, and then all of them start falling one by one, and then the music starts to fade. So then it's just you're hearing the guttural.
Remember all of these parts.
I don't know. The guttural clanking of like the metal on like just oppositional purple man. and it's just like even though like the bits of the nanotechnology are breaking off of it and it was just like it was still trying to heal, but it can't heal fast enough, and Thanos is like just overwhelming him. He never stopped. He never stopped. And I thought that was so awesome because it's just like a lot of people, I think that they look at Tony as being like
just a goofball and Mr.
Like he's this sarcastic know-it-all that can't put his money where his mouth is.
Right.
Or yes, he can. The most powerful being in the universe at that time is literally bearing down on him, and he's the only one fighting against him. And what does he do? He does not stop. And I think that's one of the best things about him. I was having a conversation with myself. I was convincing myself. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. You're taking my favorite superhero and killing him, but that's fine. I'll be fine. And like
and you want to know what?
What?
And yours didn't even go.
Yeah, no, I know.
But one of mine did. I'm just saying. I cut you off.
It's okay. Just it's fine. No, it's fine. Pretty heavy-handed film. It's pretty heavy-handed. Your final point.
Cliffhanger. I am dying to see the next movie.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty impatient person, granted. Like, I will... okay, stop. I will admit that. You've never... Anyway. If I have this feeling in, like, the pit of my stomach that's like, how am I gonna get through until waiting for the next film?
Yeah.
That is a film that I will watch multiple times. Like, that is to me a good movie, and that is what this movie did to me. The story basically isn't done.
Yeah.
And so I want to know the end of the story. I thought that all of the characters were incredibly true to themselves. Like, Peter Quill was still hysterical. Peter Parker was funny. Like, Tony was still Tony. Like, everybody was still very much themselves in the midst of the trauma and strife and turmoil.
This actually is a perfect segue leading into our next category, which is character development.
I think we're gonna have the same score.
Right, we might. Let's see what happens. Ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1. Man.
Yeah.
Yep. All of the characters really came into their own in this film. All of them had a different purpose, and while you might have gotten the tone of like their character from their previous standalone films, they just did an excellent job of evolving those characters. Doctor Strange, I love the Doctor Strange film because it's so colorful and beautiful.
Is that for real, or you're
Actually,
just
yes.
making
No,
fun?
I'm little column A, little column B. It's a really visually spectacular film, a lot of mind-bending stuff. I love Booble Snoot Cumbersnuffs.
What?
Is that not his name? I love him as an actor, and I think he did an excellent job at a standalone film. This movie, bam, so awesome. He was so kick-ass in this movie. He felt very wise and yes. Stepped up to be an interesting dark horse leader of the Avengers in a weird way. Where the other ones are normally you think Cap, normally you think Iron Man, and the usual staples, but this time it kind of it switched to Doctor Strange as the one who knew what was going on, or at least had some idea of what was going on. Thor's evolution as a character, engaging, made him a major linchpin in the storyline. He has lost everything. Right. I mean, he has nothing left to lose.
Right, literally.
So he just kind of steps up and does whatever needs to be done in order to progress the story. And Iron Man finally starts to show those fatherly undertones, and they come to brim to the surface with Spider-Man. It's just this very endearing thing where it's these pressing circumstances forced him to take what was underneath the surface and just immediately address them. Even at the end with Spider-Man, it's a rough experience overall. Spider-Man comes into his own where they do this thing where he keeps pushing the limit. He keeps pushing his limit, and he thinks that he's fine because he's an overconfident teenager. And then when it comes down to it, when it comes down to something that he has no idea about, all of a sudden he's a kid again. You don't know what's happening to you, and you're turning to the one person that you think might have the answer, and they're just
they have nothing.
I believe Tony says it's going to be okay, or it's okay.
Oh my word!
There's nothing that he can do. I mean, he has no idea what he's up against. So
Megan, you should be tearing up at this point because
Spider-Man is dead forever.
Listen, I wasn't going to take it that far. I thought that Thanos was very well developed.
Oh yeah.
As the movie progressed, I genuinely understood. Didn't agree with it, but I understood what he was doing. Now that he is convinced that he's doing the right thing, he genuinely thinks that he has the moral high ground. His development was excellent, and in the very last scene of the movie is of him, and I think he takes a deep breath.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? You watch this whole progression of his evilness. His big purple CGI evilness. Peter Quill. I did actually think that his character developed, but actually in a negative way.
I love Star-Lord.
I was a little ticked off at him though. I was genuinely angry that he could not keep it together. As much as I understand what Thanos is doing, I am genuinely mad at Star-Lord right now.
Here's 3 things related to that. With Thanos and his development, did he not think of any other option? He has a gauntlet that could literally do anything. He can't just make, he says, that the world's resources are driving each other to the brink and everyone's miserable and everything, so he couldn't just make something to have more resources.
You know, that's a really good point.
He couldn't just be hey, I'm gonna make another planet. A lot of people sympathize with Thanos, and I understand where he's coming from, and that's fine, but that does not mean that he is correct.
Right. He's not right.
Right. The second thing with Star-Lord, he's the one that caused the gauntlet to slip back on and everything. However, Doctor Strange knew that. He saw 14 million futures.
Right,
he
I
knew
realized
that was going to be...
No, I know.
The last thing that I think is really interesting is that Thanos respects Peter Quill. And the reason that he does so is because it came down to the one point where he had Gamora, and he was holding Gamora in front of him, and then he pulls the trigger.
Right.
Bubbles come out.
Yep.
But he pulls the trigger, and he says immediately after that, I like you. And the reason being is because Peter Quill was doing what needed to be done.
Which is what Thanos
believes he is doing.
Yeah, I get
and
that.
it's almost like the father of a girlfriend meeting the boyfriend for the first time.
Which is literally what was happening,
yeah,
but
and,
anyway.
and it was just like this really weird thing where it was like Thanos was taking and risking the thing that he cared about most, figuring that he was going to, that she was going to survive the ordeal, but saw that that Peter was willing to do what it took to try to stop him.
I forgot about that part. Yeah.
And I think that's a very interesting little tidbit.
Part
I don't think that's an
character.
Easter egg. I just think that that's how they wrote it, and I find that really cool. I love Star-Lord. I love him because he's one of the people that I find it very interestingly alienating. Sometimes where movie characters can put their emotions aside and continue to do whatever needs to be done, but he's just really hot-blooded. He could just really get overwhelmed and really snap off, and I think that's a really cool little character.
Yeah, he's incredibly relatable.
Yeah.
He's incredibly relatable.
Yeah, maybe in that moment you would be just as hot-headed. You don't know. You don't have the grimace coming and snapping around you and killing all the people, do you? No. You don't know the grimace? She doesn't know the grimace?
Honestly.
This is happening. And look, he's even in snapping position in that photo.
I thought that the whole flashbacks to Gamora as a child was very cool, and I didn't understand what the purpose was until the whole Soul Stone ordeal. You know, she hates Thanos so much right now, but you see in the beginning she trusted him and she went to him, and you don't blame her.
No.
You don't blame her at all. She's a poor little kid, and that was, to me, that was a very emotional, a very deep and emotional thread to the movie.
Deep and emotional thread. Last category is, oh man, appeal.
You say it the same way every time.
3, 2, 1, bam.
What?
Uh-huh.
Why? I mean, I'm not mad. I'm surprised. I almost... Whatever.
Very simple.
Okay.
If you've never seen any of the Marvel films before, you're gonna have no idea what the hell's going on in this movie. The thing is, if you don't like superhero films, you're not gonna like this. Universally appealing to pretty much every single person except in those instances, and that knocks it down to a 4.
I know.
She's so mad.
No, I'm not mad. It's because I've had this mental war all week. When did we watch it? A week ago.
Not bad. Almost a week and a half.
Because, and you don't have to put this in, because A Quiet
Time. Okay, continue.
A Quiet Place got nearly a perfect score, but I would watch this before I watched A Quiet Place again. So it's really hard to
But you're not trying to. No. Remember, the whole premise of this is not to be oh, what's the appeal of this movie over and over and over again. If you're somebody that's never seen the film before.
You know what's interesting is that I gave A Quiet Place a 4 for appeal. I gave this one.
And because if you don't like horror films,
I know, which I almost did it, but I just in my heart I couldn't give it a lower score. Listen, it's too late.
And by the way, that's allowed. That's why we have the rating system, so you can
I
judge
am
for
Peter
yourself.
Quill in this situation.
This is so you can.
I have succumbed to my emotions.
A little bit. That's okay.
And I made, according to him, a mistake, but it's fine. I'll stand by it.
I didn't say it was a mistake.
I know, I'm just joking.
Oh my god.
Listen, you can give me a hard time. I can give you a hard time.
I never give her a hard time. Never.
Literally, that is constantly all that ever happens. I think it's a movie for all ages. There were kids there. There were obviously teenagers there. There were young adults there. There were middle-aged adults. I think there were even older, senior citizens, which I think is incredible. I thought that was really cool.
All ages, all backgrounds. If you have had any investment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
right? I do understand if you're not a big superhero fan, this is I get it. Though I would say I don't know, give it a try.
Yeah.
Let's try a little bit.
So you got a 24.
Yeah.
I had 23.
Giving it a total of a
47.
47.
Yeah, which at 1 point
behind.
Behind A Quiet Place.
So
However,
Quiet Place is the movie to beat at this point.
However, it is an excellent film. Highly recommended. It just won't be the same without all the sobbing people around you. Total score, boom, 47
So it's
out
an
of 50.
excellent film.
It's an excellent film. We're going to talk a little bit about our theories about where the movie ends and where it's going to go from here. And you could stick around for that, or, just stop watching, like at this point. Boom. All right.
So,
our prevailing theories about where the movie ended, where it will progress from here, and what actually happened with Spider-Man, which is the possibly the most devastating loss to most people here. He was the only one that was aware of what happened to him. His spidey sense allowed him to feel that there was some sort of doom happening. And in fact, I believe that is in the comic, from my recollection. So he's just a scared little kid that something bad's happening to him. And Tom Holland does an excellent ad-libbing, which was apparently that whole scene was very just off the cuff. And it felt very organic and real and visceral. And so there you go, to make things a little bit more
just
devastating.
pour lemon juice on the paper cut.
I had 3 predominant theories. I feel as though that there's either the Soul Stone in play, the Time Stone in play, or the Reality Stone in play. And I believe that that is the order of the likelihood of those stones having influence on the next film. I believe that the Soul Stone exchange theory that many people have had, where that you are going to have equivalent exchange. Ultimately, I feel that the old guard is going to trade their lives for the new guard.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I wanted to say it first.
I'm sorry. So that's what I feel like is ultimately going to happen, because Robert Downey Jr., his last film is supposed to be Avengers 4, as they're referring to it as. Same thing with Chris Evans. Yeah, I think the 2 big ones are Chris Evans and RDJ. It's very likely going to end up being that they're going to exchange their lives to bring back new Avengers that they had.
Like Peter Parker and
yes.
T'Challa and,
yeah, I do believe that the Time Stone will have some amount of play. Chris Evans is in his old getup from like the first Avengers film, when he had that super bright light blue Star-Spangled Banner sort of thing. Like, he looked like all-American boy.
Marca.
Yeah, no, he would be fat and lazy and not invested in anything.
Have a Budweiser in this hand.
And he would have a shotgun and say, "Listen, that tornado come and try to take my head. I'm gonna shoot it right in the face." Perhaps it might be that they use Time Stone to go back in time, but then ultimately realize that they have to do the soul exchange sort of thing. A lot of people that we thought that were going to survive this Avengers film died.
Right.
And then the ones that we thought that were going to die survived. What if the whole premise is that they actually were snapped to a different reality? I just feel like there's something funky with the Reality Stone and perception of things.
Right.
But who knows? I mean, the Infinity Gauntlet looked like it was completely destroyed after he did the snap. I don't know if I don't know if you noticed that, but it looked like all the stones were cracked and the gauntlet itself was like completely destroyed. So I mean, yeah, what's gonna end up happening?
I forgot about. I did remember seeing that. Well, how are we gonna use the stones if they're cracked?
Is there anything else that you have as far as your theories go?
No. But one thing that I do think is going to happen is that Cap and Tony have to work together now, because Doctor Strange knew the one scenario that they could defeat him, and he did say at the one point, "We're in the long game now." I think that he told Tony what it like that one way to defeat Thanos. I think that's going to be a big part of the storyline, is they're coming back together. I really only think that the Soul Stone has to be in play. I don't disagree with your other theories. I'm more inclined to think that the Time Stone would come to play.
To address another theory that a lot of people, they tend to question this whole thing about why the Hulk did not show up except for in the very beginning of the movie. And from my experience, the Hulk is like a toddler. He got his butt kicked, and now he was pouting about it. The other thing that, another theory that I had mulled over in my head is the fact that the Hulk thinks that the whole world hates him anyway. Why would he want to come back to a group of people? Again, he has like a toddler mindset. Why would they come back to a people that he believes hates him?
My brother has an interesting theory that I wanted to shout out. He thinks that Gamora is actually alive and in the Soul Stone. I think that is very interesting, although now that you said that the stones are cracked,
However,
I'm not sure how that would work.
The Russo brothers
supposedly, because Marvel lies.
They supposedly said that, they confirmed that Gamora is alive.
Right, we just read that today.
In the Soul Stone. So, Captain Marvel, I know that the movie is supposed to be taking place back in the 90s, I believe, which is why it looks like an old beeper that's been modified.
I wondered about that.
So that it could, it kind of like time travel beeper kind of thing, like he could send that message back to her. I'm also very curious if they're going to incorporate Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock is a like a more celestial being kind of thing. Adam Warlock is one of the only people in the universe that can wield the Infinity Gauntlet while it's at full power. I actually wanted to present just two questions for you.
Okay.
Who do you think is going to come back, and who do you think is really dead?
I think that most of the Guardians are going to come back. I think that Rocket is going to give his life for Groot. I think that Tony is going to give his life for Peter Parker. My guess would be that Cap gives his for the Winter Soldier. I'm kind of like, if Vision is dead, I thought maybe they could use the Time Stone to go back and bring him back alive, but I'd really want Wanda to come back because that would be hard.
I don't know that. I agree with with Tony and Cap. I don't know that I agree with Rocket, and the reason being is because I believe that they still have one Guardians movie that they said that they're going to have that same lineup. I believe that at least the permanent deaths that we know about right now, Loki, I believe is permanent. I believe he's just dead.
Okay. I was expecting like through the whole movie for him to pop up.
No, I think they did that
Loki,
to kind of show.
I'm just saying that's Loki's character. Like you think he's dead and he pops up.
Yeah. I also believe that Vision is permanently dead. My heart goes out to Scarlet Witch because my goodness, what an experience she has had to have had. She finally had these culminating feelings, dealing with Vision, and finally realizing like what the relationship means to her, and then like he's just like, you need to just kill me, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm fine with it, I'm good with it, and she's like, holy crap, I'm not. And then she's murdering him, and then she's holding back Thanos, and that's what I think is an awesome scene, is that it because that's what's showing it's like her real power, and like the fact that he has this fully powered Infinity Gun. Well, one stone missing. Sorry.
Right.
But still, she's holding back 5 Infinity Stones just to kill the person that she loves the most. And then he just makes it, points out that it's all for naught. Back in time, oh my god.
That was a little bit terrible.
Then rip the stone out of his head.
Oh my word, then he
throws his body.
Gray.
Yeah, he throws his body to the side, and then she disappears. I think the two most tragic characters overall at the end of this movie were Scarlet Witch, especially considering that she's faded away, and Tony.
I thought you were going to say Peter. No, Tony.
If Tony was not a messed up man before, he is a messed up man now.
Right.
Overall, those are our general theories about like what happened where it's going to kind of drift in the
Maybe.
future. Let us know if you agree with those thoughts. If you
Yes.
think that any of our theories will stand the test of time. And
Tell us your theories.
yeah, tell us your theories as well. We would love to hear some new things that maybe we didn't think of.
Yes.
And also, please, by all means, let us know what you thought about Infinity War. If you liked it, if you enjoyed it, let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed our review, please give us a like. Maybe subscribe, stick around, and see if you like this sort of stuff. Maybe we'll have some...
Give us suggestions.
Yeah,
Give us movies that you want us to review.
We have a bunch of movies that we are anticipating reviewing at some
Yes.
point, but it's just...
It's very exciting.
You know, it's an exciting time, but
It is.
in any case, we hope you enjoyed our review of Infinity War. We hope that you yourself will check it out because, as we said, spectacular film.
Yes.
And if you are looking for a great action adventure, this is a movie for you. We will see you guys in the next episode, and we hope to see you there. Okay?
Bye.
Bye! Woo!